had you on. I knew you could give us some desktop and mobile perspective here. I know Alyssa was kind of trying to figure out the whole why is there so many clients type of thing. I think you answered that for her finally.
No, for sure, and clarified, even what clients are. So I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Pixel push Sharpo, thank you. And you did not see my power surge go take down my stream. It was just
Close the wrong browser tab.
Yeah,
yeah.
Excuses.
So we are going to start working on a project here. I'm going to give Alyssa a chance to take a break, Sam.
I'll be right.
Yeah, I'm here.
And you feel free to go be with the family or whatever if you need to. But what we're going to do is we're going to be working on. We haven't quite dipped into the SignalR bits yet. We set up kind of the stage for this the other day. So we've got the concept of a card game that we're going to be building. And what we want to do, and we're going to get into this today, this time, we built the cards yesterday. We got some of the UI laid out, and then after the show, I kind of tidied it up a little bit. What we're going to do is create like a table that is going to hold the card pile and show the latest discard, and then show like the connected players, and then each player will be able to connect with their device through a web app, and then play the game with the rest of the players. So probably the first order of business today will be getting a player connected and showing that connection up on the board. So that's kind of the scope of the project.
And then, look at that, I closed down my VM and my fan is gone.
Yeah, mine stays nice and quiet until I play games, and then the thing turns into like a turbojet.
Which, I mean, if you think about, like, the computer is doing what it's meant to do. So on overclocking, it gives it the cool air that it needs to circulate.
Are you going to get the new M1 when it comes?
The new MacBooks?
Yeah.
No, not yet. So I actually just like last year I got those, and I love these machines, the tiny MacBooks. Those are so nice productivity machines. You can take them anywhere. So mine's still Intel based, and I see what Apple is doing. I think they're just like, this is just the tip of the iceberg. They're getting into it too, and Apple is really good at making software and hardware work together. So once it matures enough, you still have some of the edge cases where some Intel, unless you have the Intel architecture, some apps will not run. But once they cross that bridge, once they have it nicely streamlined, then I think you're going to get more out of those chips than you did with Intel.
Yeah, I've read some really detailed benchmarks and breakdowns of the M1, and everything I've read so far has been positive. I have not found one shred of bad news about that product. So it looks pretty exciting from a couple perspectives. One of the big ones for me is I think if Apple does come out with an AR VR device, they may have a real serious edge on their competition.
Yeah. And I mean, they have been making chips for the iPhone for the last 7 years now, I think. So they have had the time to master this.
Yeah, it looks like they really had a breakthrough with this one, though. Our SignalR app that we're building, it is a .NET project. We have literally one unit test, but we do have a test project here, so we can at least say we did unit testing. We have a client app. This is going to be both our app for the tabletop and the game clients to connect to. We have our server that will host our hubs, and then we have a shared project because we have Blazor, and it's .NET and C#, so is our server, so we can share code between these two projects, no problem. So yesterday we started building a set of kind of plain old class objects here to hold
objects.
Yep, good old Pocos. So we've got a card that can hold a suit and a value. And then we have some utilities here. We didn't build these on air, but I quickly threw these together last night. We can shuffle a deck of cards, and then I moved this from yesterday's session out to another location, but this will create a brand new deck of cards.
Yes.
So we can shuffle. We have the cards themselves. The next thing we need to do is actually start dealing those cards out to users, and building our UIs out and working with SignalR. We have our tabletop here, which is still kind of in a beta state. I added a list of players, so nobody saw this yesterday, but I added a list of players. We have a draw pile that shows the number of cards that are still in that pile, and then we have a discard pile. So these are not wired up to anything right now. They're just kind of placeholders. I wireframed this yesterday after the show. And then Alyssa, I fixed the pips. We have pips now. So look at that.
I love it. That looks awesome. You have to show us real quick how you did that.
So we did this on the show the other day, and we had a little bit of an issue. I figured it out. It was something to do with the middle of the card here, and that middle pip section.
Yes.
If you look at the grid, and let's see if I can grab a frame of this with my zoom tool. So I'm focusing on this grid. If you have this CSS grid layout like this, this section and this section here, they're kind of locked into that width. So this middle section has to fit inside of that little box.
Right.
It can't go outside of that box. So what I did is I changed the middle section to a column span that spans across all of the columns. So it's ignoring the columns and the gutters. So it's essentially just like a full width span in the middle. So I did that, and then I let the middle pip section just be a flexbox layout.
You also added some logic though for how many pips each card gets, right?
Right. So something
And
just
I did want to bring up that I wanted to do some styles. I was so excited yesterday, and I still cannot figure out what I'm doing wrong. I pulled it down. If anyone has pointers, I would love to hear them. My issue is that I'm getting it to run, like I say, .NET run in the server, and it builds and runs. But then I go to localhost 5001, and all I get is a big fat 404. Like I'm
it's
never able
weird.
to see anything. So I didn't know if anyone had encountered this before.
Could be a different port on your machine. Depends a little bit on the config. I mean, you can change what port you're on.
It says it in the console, but when she visits it, it's a 404. It's like the server's not serving. It's running, but it's not responding for some reason.
Yeah, I can. I'll put in a link to a screenshot of my.
Yeah, I can look as well.
Quick to see, yeah, if anybody has.
So Ed, before you start building on this, can I just make an observation? Alyssa, I think it's super brave and nice of you to hang out while we do all of this stuff at SignalR, because this is like hardcore .NET stuff, and here you are just trying to see all the different things we are juggling through, and you're kind of just heading into this and the deep end of the pool, like they say. So
that's exactly what I said.
Kudos to you.
Thanks. I just feel a little bit bad that I wasn't able to keep up last night. I was like, I literally don't know how to get this project running. I've had, like, Ed and I worked before on a .NET project, and it was running. So I know my machine has the capabilities. I just, I'm lost. So yes, I put that in the chat. Let me know if you have ideas on what I should try. But Ed keeps showing us. So you ended up.
So I added the pip section back, and I'm looping over the card's value and just rendering that many of those. There is one little catch in here. So if it is greater than, so you can see I have a little if statement here that says show pips. If the card value is less than a jack, it will show them. So if it's if it's jack or greater, it's going to ignore it. So we can put something like a picture or whatever in there later.
Right.
But what you don't want is a ton of
Right.
clubs like muddying up the UI here.
I think it's time to let Sam go. I think he's heading
Yeah, I'm gonna go grab a quick bite. So thanks for
All right,
having me
Sam.
on.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it, man. Take care.
What I was wondering is, what if we just put one big fat one there? Like that's what I was hoping to do. Like for a king, just like a really big fat spade or something, you know, like I'm a king, I have a spade. I don't know.
So we can drop an else in here, and then another span, and we can call it. We should probably give it a class.
Face cards, or what do you call those?
Yeah, face card. Just tell it it's a pip from that section. And then, oh, another thing, I just realized I did something.
What'd you do?
The symbol.
Did you do?
That's fun. I just caught a bug here. So it's diamonds with a bunch of spades because I hard coded the spade. So I'm glad you wanted to take a look at this. So I need to render the suit there. So this is suit.
Oh, that's fun.
So I have a shortcut method there. And we'll do the same for this one. Actually, we don't even need... Yeah, we'll do it this way. We'll do it that way.
Bye, Kevin. Bye,
Say we could toggle the class, but we're still going to end up with a pile of them. So we don't want to do that.
What?
I was saying we could probably just toggle the CSS class, but then we'd have to like not render that loop. This will work for now. We could go back and refactor sometime if we want to. So we have face card pip now. And if we, let's see, we need to get a watch going on this guy.
On who? Oh. Yeah.
Why do I have, oh, I'm running the debugger there. Can I get a normal terminal, please? Normal terminal. How do you do this? How do you come on. There we go. It's still running. There we go. All right, so we want to do .NET watch run. And watch this guy run. And there it goes. So it showed up on my other screen here. And let's see. Now, okay, we have hearts this time. It's not all clubs. If we go down to king, there's our king. So if we inspect that, and then what do you think the style should be, Alyssa?
Chunky.
Chunky. So this doesn't have any style yet. So I can use a little plus sign here, bring this up, font size, like
big
5 EM. Ooh,
that's
maybe take it down a little bit.
Can you center
Maybe. Yeah.
Let's see. What's the?
Actually,
yeah, just say text line center, right?
What if we do this
on that face card pip? Shouldn't text line center just push?
Let's try something here real quick. Let's edit the attribute and say pip. There we go. Because we already have a class that does some of this work for us. I think 3 EM. Why is that one not working? Oh, because I didn't change it. Okay. Yeah. So that'll work. So we'll just take pip and say pip space face card pip. And then go back to our CSS code, client, www root, CSS, and scroll all the way down to the bottom. Now we need one.
Oh, one for the face card pip.
Yeah. So we'll do.
Oh dear lordy.
Actually, we could just do pip face card pip like that, and then font size 3 EM seemed to work, and that should do it. I think that's it.
Did you put CSS in like the proj folder or file or whatever so that a watch will like change the CSS stuff? Or
I didn't, but we just need a refresh. And do we need to empty cache? Because something's not right.
oh, it's
Oh,
so
there
it's
we go.
working for
That
your-
one. Those are working.
Why are some
this-
of them like the
why
ace,
is-
for instance? What's up with
Yeah,
that?
why is the ace not working? What is up with that?
Doesn't have face card. Why doesn't it have
Yeah.
that class?
Oh, I think I have a I can remove that logic now
What
because I wasn't displaying an ace doesn't have a face value, like a face picture.
Oh.
So if it was 1 or if it was between 2 and a jack, then it was ignoring it. So I thought I was anyway.
If show pips. So where's show pips at? Card
Okay,
value is
yeah, that's what it
less
needs to be. So
card.
I took it out. So actually I need to add that. Card dot value is equal to card dot ace.
I
card
thought we could just
value
make
dot-
that ace high instead of low, but yeah, your way works too.
And also, there we go. That should fix that. So it's going to render a face card pip instead now. Famous last words. It did not work. Oh, it should have been or. Not and also, but or. If it's this or that. Now it'll
Still,
work.
it worked for the aces. Go back.
Is my watch not running anymore?
Card dot value is equal to. Card dot value is equal to card value dot ace,
Mm-hmm.
or card dot value is less than. Okay,
I've got the
proposal.
logic backwards.
I have a proposal.
Yes.
So the way that you're doing it right now, if we sort, ace is going to be separate from the other face cards. So what if we got rid of the extra or logic that you just wrote and made an ace high, and so that anything that was less than, right, it would still, wouldn't that work? Like if we swapped
So-
ace where it is.
It would for this, but I think it might cause us other problems later because in Crazy Eights, the ace is the low card. So if we're looking at our hand, we want to sort low to high, the ace is going to start floating up to the high when it's actually 1.
Okay. So show pips, card dot value is not equal to.
It's not a face card. Or it is a face. What is this? Am I not doing this right? Chat's going to be all over me. I haven't looked back at chat yet. They probably know what I'm doing wrong. Ace is 1.
Yeah, I don't think chat has suggestions.
So
right
I'm going to
now.
show pips, the basic non-face card pips, if
So I feel
the
like
card value is
Isn't-
not
doesn't need to
an
be equal to-
ace,
because you want to show pips if you're an ace, right?
or no, because it's going to be the face
oh,
card
I
pip.
see. Show pips is not for face cards. I'm with you
Mhm.
now.
So
Are you allowed to do all of this on one line? Is that why-
I'm sorry.
Well, I said, are you allowed to do all of this on one line? Is it fine with you?
All of it on one line.
Blazor Meister said you want
I do
and,
want and.
not or.
Okay, so I had it
Even-
wrong when
even
I had it
though
equal.
Aces should have been working, even with the and or being flopped. And aces aren't working, right? Like
Yeah, now I've got nothing again. No, there it goes. There it goes. That did it. That was
beautiful.
it. So I had the logic reversed, and then when I didn't go back and change the or, and it's back to an and. So this looks better.
And there's a queen. Perfect. That's all of them.
Yay! So I can pull, I think, the demo cards out, and then we can have our draw on our discard pile, and we can start signal-ring. So the part of the app we're looking at is in game, or no, it's on table. It's table.
In the I said Blazor Meister, and it's definitely Mr. My bad.
Yes, Mr. Magoo for the win, as
Sorry.
always. Spotting problems before I even know they're there. My good friend, Mr. Magoo. So I don't need a deck of cards anymore either, but I did refactor this last night. So we had like a game object that had a deck in it. Instead, I just put it in a utility to create a deck. So it's not tied to any one specific game. And I also added a shuffle. So we can shuffle the deck of cards.
Is there like did you add a button for that, or what? Where's the?
No, it's just an API call. So on this component, I'm creating a new deck, and I call card utilities, which is something I added yesterday. And then I moved that deck creation code that we wrote, where we go over the enumerators and create the 52 cards. I moved that into its own utility method. And then I also added a generic shuffle algorithm, which I swiped from the interwebs. So this is a Fisher-Yates shuffle. If you want to read up on that, then Google Fisher-Yates shuffle. But the idea is not only does it randomize the deck of cards, but it actually physically moves the items around the list. So it's a literal shuffle of the cards, which is different than just generating a random deck, apparently. Just read the Wikipedia article, and if you want to geek out on that, you can. But that's the proper way to shuffle, apparently. So we have the right shuffle, and this is what's called an extension method. Do they have those in TypeScript? I don't recall if that's a thing or not in TypeScript. An extension method.
Maybe. Let me look.
I don't remember. It's been a while since I've done some TypeScript. But in .NET, what we have is a concept of an extension method. And you normally don't do this in JavaScript because it pollutes the namespaces. But for example, in JavaScript, if you had an array and you wanted to add a new type of functionality to an array, say I wanted to add a method that attaches to an array and shuffles it. In .NET, you can do that safely because of the namespaces in .NET. So things are scoped to namespace. So you're not going to break any global function names or anything like that, like you would in JavaScript. If you added an array method of shuffle in JavaScript, and then the W3C came out and said we're going to add a shuffle method to the array in JavaScript, you would have a problem because one would overwrite the other, and then you wouldn't know which algorithm you were using. In .NET, since it's namespaced, you're only going to run into a conflict if two things share that namespace, and it's compiled, so it'll throw an error and tell you to solve your ambiguous reference. So what we can do is the shuffle that I added, it extends any list. So I can grab a list of anything and call shuffle on it. And it acts as if it is built into that list object. Yeah, adding a function to the prototype is a better way to explain that. Thank you, the real Dave.
Oh, yeah.
I've never met the fake Dave, by the way.
Not the fake Dave.
But you can see this taking effect in the table component here. So when I'm typing against my create deck is giving me a list of cards. So when I hit dot here, you can see shuffle is showing up in the list of methods that it has available because I've extended the list of card type with a shuffle method. But since it's actually a generic method, I could have a list of strings, for example. And let's see, we need a
yeah, that's definitely how
list.
Hadn't heard of extension methods, but I have heard in TypeScript of adding something to the prototype. So this makes a lot more sense.
So now everything that is a list has a shuffle.
Shuffle. Yep.
So that's pretty cool stuff. I like the way .NET gives you those extension methods because it leaves frameworks open to really simple patterns that you can follow. You'll see these in these startup files that we keep going into when we're adding things. So if we go into our server application, you'll see a bunch of extension methods probably in here. This service collection, what you can do is it's an iService collection. So basically there's a bunch of extension methods that are built off of the iService method or iService interface. And you're saying, I'm going to add this method to an iService, but I don't have to own the iService code. I can extend it from the outside. So now you've got a nice pattern where everything just, you come in and say, add whatever service you want, and that extension method takes care of all of the abstracted code for you. Mm-hmm. You can see these are extension methods because they literally tell you right here in the IntelliSense that it is an extension of iService collection. So you'll see these used a lot. That's how I wrote the shuffle, is so it'd be generic. We could just attach it anywhere we want. In case we don't want to just shuffle a deck, maybe we want to shuffle the user's hand for some reason. I don't know why, but it's easy enough to just leave it that way.
There's too much organization. I need to add some chaos. You could like even tie it into like if the mobile device is like shaken, like shook, like you shake up your hand.
That's actually not a bad idea. That could be fun. So that leaves us with you're gonna love this Bootstrap layout. So I've got a row with 3 columns. We have our player section. Maybe I need to add a little header here as well. We could tone down these H1s, by the way. These were
you
just
didn't even notice my boycott.
Prototype.
I left your stream.
So we have a list of players. Bootstrap is great for prototyping. I'm sorry, like it's nice to write your own CSS, but it's also nice to get stuff done. And the show would take a lot longer if we had to write literally every bit of this from scratch. So
I just deleted the project. I'm trying to re-pull it down, and I'm thinking because I ran .NET Run in the wrong place. Maybe initially I kicked things off wrong and like broke the heck out of it. So we'll see. We'll see if I can. We'll see.
That's a possibility. So we've got players now. We don't have any physically connected players. This is a placeholder. That's probably what we should do next, I think. We also have a draw pile showing 52 cards and a discard pile, which is currently a static discard that's hard-coded. So we need to first get players in the game before we can deal them a hand. And then once we deal them a hand, they can draw from the draw pile or discard to the discard pile. So that's our next steps, I think.
What is up with your cursor on discard pile? What's up with that? You got a blinking cursor on pile. Can you change that? Why is that happening? I don't understand. Are these inputs?
No, they're just text.
Well, if they're text, why can you drop your cursor there?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know.
All right,
I can't type there. I can't type in it. So
that's good. That's good. That would be really weird if you could change the header.
Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. It's just
if you put user select none on one of those, does it stop that?
I'm sure it would. It worked for the cards.
Did it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can't select the card. So player, we need to connect to player. Right now, I've set up on game, and I did this on purpose as well. When you saw me click game, it opened a new tab. So when we're testing, I can just click a couple times and create a bunch of clients. But we need to add, similar to our chat, a way for us to, I just realized I can't get back to that tab. A way to enter our name and join the game. So we need to create some SignalR stuff. So the game tab, I've already kind of pre-configured this for SignalR usage. We've got the using statement that brings in the SignalR library. We've got the navigation manager so we can grab the URL. And then I've got iDisposable ready to go to dispose of the hub when we don't use it anymore. There's a user form, username form, and a join game button. And right now, the join game button just stays disabled because there's no SignalR Hub to connect to and do anything. So there's no other code there. This is all just waiting for us to build. So I tried to set us up so we can just get going today. So we've got a client that's staged and ready to run here, but it doesn't have anywhere to connect. So we need to create a SignalR Hub. Do you remember how to create a SignalR Hub?
Yeah.
No? So it's really easy. We're going to go to the server, and on the hubs folder.
Like a CLI where you can be like .NET SignalR.new hub enter, and then it like does it.
I don't know if it has a SignalR scaffolding tool or not, but these are so bare bones that I don't know if that's necessary. So if we go into the hubs folder and say new file and call it a game hub .cs, and then we just need a class game hub, and it's going to inherit a hub. That's about all we need. And if we control period here, let's see, change namespace. Yeah, so we need to throw that in the right namespace, and we also need, let's see if it will give us, nope, no IntelliSense there. We'll go cheat, and we'll go to the chat hub.
So far,
we need to get
enough to have a CLI.
we need to get the correct using statements here. So we've got our using statements. We've got a game hub. What is it asking me here? Circular base dependency involving game hub and game hub. Oh, somehow this got typed out to game hub. That should just stay hub.
Yeah, Mr. McGee said that it was autocomplete.
Oh, it auto. Thanks, IntelliSense, for auto completing that and breaking it.
Exactly what you wanted, right?
Right. So all we really need is this bit. That's it. Now we have a hub. So we have a hub, and we need to create the client connection. So we can light that button up and let the user connect. So we'll go back to our chat hub again and steal some stuff here. This is the command for sending a message from a chat hub. Go ahead and place that here. So instead of send message, let's call it join game. And we don't have a message to send the server. We just want to give it the username. And then we don't have anything to do here yet. So when somebody joins the game, what do we want to do?
Whoa.
We want to...
Aren't you morphing the game tag into, or the game tab into their deck of their hand or something? Don't we need to deal them in?
We need to deal them in, but we also need to create some concept of a game that people can join. So on the table, we can display the game, the players from the game.
Mm.
So let's add something where the table can connect as well and get the players that are connected. So we'll wait on this bit here. We don't have anything really to do there yet. And then we want another task here. We'll duplicate again. I'm lazy. I don't type either. I don't go to the extent of needing a CLI to generate everything, but I will copy paste some code.
Listen, I have no shame. I'm like, generate all the things for me. Thank you.
Table join game. Let's change this to player. So when the player joins the game, it's going to send its name. When the table joins the game, we really don't need...
What does the table joining the game mean? Isn't that more of a game start?
So the table needs to be able to attach to that hub as well, so it can get the information and display it. So the player needs to be able, or the table needs to be able to join, and then the game needs to be able to join. So when multiple players join the game,
Yes.
it can see all the players and show their discards.
Yeah, wouldn't that be just game start, or is it different from starting the game?
There's no game that's been started per se yet. We don't have players yet.
You're saying the table's going to join before everybody?
The table needs to join first. In this scenario, the table needs to join first in order to show all of the users that are taking part in the game. We'll work on this a little bit.
Okay.
Let's keep moving here. We've got the table that joins the game, and both of these things need to have a place to register their users, because we can do the like Chat Hub here. It does clients all send async, and we can send and receive messages. Would having the table create a group and then the players connect to the group work? Yes, that would be probably the path we'll get down. That's actually a really excellent kind of synopsis of what we're doing. So we need some state management here. So that's one thing our Chat Hub doesn't have. In all the chat examples that we've seen so far, they don't maintain any of the state. They just send messages back and forth. Any state that we see has been on the screen in HTML, and once you remove that page, it's gone. Like, there's no way to get that chat history back. The same thing would happen if we didn't add some kind of state management here. So sharing state in a hub is really easy, and letting that persist in the application just requires us to set up, I'm going to add it to the hub itself. So let's do a new file, and we'll call it game state. And then in our startup, what we need to do is add the state. We need to do a couple things in here, actually. Our Chat Hub is the only endpoint available right now. We need to add our game hub, because right now it doesn't have a route. There's no way to actually get to it. And we need to have a game hub. Why am I getting type or namespace game hub was not found? Using server hubs. There we go. So we have our endpoint. I'm going to scroll up here. We need to add our state as well. So we'll do services dot add, or not add, sorry, services, sorry, it is add singleton or add scoped. Let's just do singleton for now. This will be one instance per application. We'll say game state. So this is registering with dependency injection for this application. Let's see, why am I not getting... I didn't put in anything in game state yet. Let's make this our we'll go ahead and put it in hubs as well. We'll namespace it to hubs. We'll say public game state. So it's just a regular class. And this will hold the state for our game. And now if we go back to startup, that underscore should go away. So we've got, when we're calling services add singleton, there's the singleton part is a lifetime management thing. There's a couple different ways we can manage lifetimes in a server application. You don't probably see this in in an Angular app, for example, because the life cycle of the application is how long is it open in the browser. There's only one user to it. On a server application, when I say game state is a singleton, every instance of this application only has one instance of game state. If I did add scoped, it would be per connect, not hub connection, but I'm trying to remember how that would be handled in the application itself. I'd have to look at it. Depends on, like in a Blazor application, it's different from add singleton is shared across everyone. Add scoped is per user. So there's things that you don't want to share state like among users because of. So for example, if I wanted to keep a state of where my users navigated to in a Blazor app, I don't want to share that with all the users that are connected. So I don't want to use a singleton there. So I want to share only that state with some users. So we'll use singleton to start with, but this is registering with dependency injection. So when we go back to our game hub, we can just inject that into our hub and we have access to it. So what we'll do is we'll create a field of game state. We'll just call it state. And we'll create a constructor here that takes a game state, and we will call that state as well. Actually, I should probably underscore that. And we will say state equals state here. So do you know what a constructor is, Alyssa? Okay.
At least
so
my version of it, I assume they're the same.
Yep. So whenever you new up a game hub, it's going to call the constructor. And when the framework sees that it requires a parameter, it's going to dig through dependency injection and see if it has a type that resolves there. And when it sees in startup, when it sees this, it's going to say, oh, I have game state here in dependency injection. Go ahead and create one. Since it's a singleton, it'll say, go ahead and create one if one doesn't exist. If one does exist, give them back that one we created before. And that will fulfill the parameter for the constructor, and it will give it to the constructor to then keep in our private field for us. So now we'll have a game state in our game hub. So what we can do here, let's save that. We'll go back to game state for a second. Let's see if we can throw these on the same screen. I like working side by side when I'm doing stuff like this. We'll split that to the right. So we have, no, let's do this one. I want the state to the right. There we go. So the state's on the right, the hub's on the left, and we can kind of work side by side here because we're going to want to do stuff together. My game state is kind of this just container object. So I want a property on this that is, we don't have a player type yet or a player object yet. We can just hold those in a string for now. We might want a more advanced type later. But we can just set up a list of strings to hold the players. And what do I have here? List could not be found. I need some using statements here. So using generic collections, we have our players. And we'll just go ahead and say this is going to be a new list. Actually, I think we can just say new in .NET. This is C#9, so we can just say new and it knows what we mean. Isn't that nice? So we don't have to say a new list of string anymore. It can implicitly go, oh, you trying to new this thing? I'll go ahead and give you one. So we'll say new there. So we ensure that we don't have a null ever, because that's a pain. And then when we join a game, we can say underscore state dot players dot add user. And that's going to go into the game state and plunk a user in there. And then when the table joins the game, it can go in and get the players. IntelliSense is a little behind here. It's driving me nuts. Whoops. It can go ahead and get the players out and give them to the table to display. We good?
I think so.
Cool. Let's see here. So when a player joins the game, actually we need to create a method that calls onto the table. So this might be a little unnecessary, actually. The table will need to join the game, but we'll leave that there in case it joins after the fact. But what we'd want to do here is we would want to call await client, and then we'd want to send to the table the player that just joined, or actually just the game state itself. So it can update. I'm trying to think how we might want to handle that. We could send the entire state. We got rated by Mr. Fritz. C# Fritz or Jeff Fritz just joined us with a crowd of folks. Let me check my Twitch window so it'll tell me how many. 105. 105 people. So you just tripled the size of our stream there. Thank you, Mr. Fritz. So we're doing some SignalR programming today. I have Alyssa and Nicoll with me, and we are building a SignalR application in Blazor that is going to eventually be the game Crazy Eights. So we're thinking of a fun way to do some Blazor and SignalR programming, and we decided to build a card game. So we didn't plan any of this out ahead of time. We're trying to let it be as real as possible. We have kind of a rough concept of what we want this to look like. We want mobile devices connecting to a table, and you can have your private hand and your mobile device and then play cards with a group of people.
Robert's cracking me up.
So there's some architecture decisions that we have not yet made. One of those things will be when a player joins a game, what amount of data do we really want to send to the table to require it to update its UI? We can just send it the blanket like all of the state and let it update the entire UI, or we could just say we want to go to the table and tell it to update its players. Let's just go with the players for the time being. I think sending it everything might be a little overkill. Since this is SignalR, I mean, we do know exactly what it is we're targeting. We're calling that, again, remote procedure call on the client. We're going to call a method on the client and tell it to do stuff. So we can be a little bit more specific with this. And we have client. We're not going to do all because we only need the table. The table's the only thing that really cares if it gets.
Is this the part where the table creates the group, or?
Yeah. So
Not really.
client dot. Why am I not getting proper IntelliSense here? I'm not getting client. Do I not have a client?
Tactical
Why?
Thomas said clients, plural.
Oh, it's clients. There we go. Thank you so much. So we have all caller. I think we're gonna end up with a group on this one, and we don't even have this group yet, but it would probably be something like a table. So the table receives an update of some kind. And IntelliSense is fighting me today, isn't it? It doubled clients for me for some reason. We'd want to do send async and then run some command and give it the players. We'd want actually just the current user, because we're assuming it already has an established list of players. We're just adding another one to it. What we may end up doing is sharing that game state even across to both projects. We'll have to see where this takes us. So if a player joins the game, it sends a message to a table, and then the table has to update somehow.
Well,
so we
Sorry,
go ahead.
Has the group been created?
It has not.
Okay, and who and where and when?
I think that's where this needs to take place.
Okay.
So what we could do here, I'll mark this out for a second. And we need to do a, let's see, let's pull up the docs for the SignalR.
I was gonna say, I thought you were gonna say, let's pull up some MS Paint and like map it.
So, yeah, in SignalR, let's see, we've got server concepts, we've got users and groups. So let's look at a basic, let's see, that's user groups. So we want to add a group. So we'll say group, add to group async.
Groups.add to groups async.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and just copy. We'll copy that. So when the table joins, we want to join and add a table like that.
If does it need a unique identifier per instance? Like if we have two different crazy 8 tables out there? Or...
So we may need that at some point. I don't think we're that far yet.
I
so
just didn't know if that was ever a concern, or if you can ship
it could
it,
be.
It will scale to however many games.
No. Currently we're building for one game and one game only.
Okay.
If we wanted to expand this to be more like Jackbox games where you can have multiple like rooms, multiple tables going, what we do here is probably set up when you create a table, it gets a unique identifier of some kind. Mm-hmm. And it would be, so we do like a var.
I just wanted to make sure I understood how this was working, because I was thinking maybe there was some SignalR magic and you didn't need a unique identifier there.
So what we'd probably do is tack on a unique identifier onto this.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we would send that unique identifier to the clients that join. So when they join the game, they would get that unique identifier. So they're grouped with the table.
Okay.
so that you don't have people crossing into other tables by accident. So in Jackbox games, they do this with your 4-digit code.
Mhm.
So you could join the table with a 4-digit code, but something has to make that code. So
What is
I would
that?
probably use a GUID.
What's that new GUID gonna look like? Is it
So
really
this is
long? Is it?
yes. So these are terribly long. It wouldn't be something you'd want to type in by hand.
Yeah, Dave, the real Dave said you'd need a lobby where users could wait for a game to start.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. So a GUID is going to look like this horrendous mess.
I thought it was going to be like 4 digits.
Yeah. I don't know how Jackbox gets away with their 4 digits. I don't know if they have a GUID and they're taking 4 digits of it and
Yeah, I
giving
was
it to
gonna say,
you.
I'm assuming there's a relationship between the game pin and some unique ID that's not being shown because that's
Yeah. Yeah, probably. They probably give you a pin that matches up with that unique ID, and then you can crash people's games, so it's not that great.
Oh, like if you just randomly type.
I was
pin.
off by a letter once, and I joined somebody else's game and spectated it. So they're not perfect. So our security won't be any better. But that's probably what we would do. We'd create a unique identifier, identify that table, and
Hey,
then
Silly Queen, good to
keep
see you
everybody
again.
grouped.
Silly Queen asked, "Is it bad to create a separate hub for each table?"
A separate hub for each table would probably be overkill.
Why?
But
Wait, explain. Maybe I don't understand hubs. Hub is connection, right?
we would want to have a different game state per table, like a different game state. We wouldn't want a
And if we
singleton
made
here.
a new hub per table, we would have a new game state per table, right? Like that
Yeah,
would-
we would probably have another higher order object that would have multiple game states in it. I haven't quite thought about how we'd scale this massively. It's just kind of let's see if we can do
No,
the
and
thing first.
I think getting one game down is perfectly acceptable. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure I understood how the technology was working because there sometimes is some magic with what you've shown me so far.
Mhm.
So I was wondering if this was one of those cases. So
Yeah, and you will see there is a connection ID here, but again, those get created and thrown away all the time, so we can't rely on that for anything. It's something that the group function requires, so we just take the current connection ID and give it to it. I don't know why you would use that for anything else, the connection ID, but it's just going to take the current connection and use that value. So we'll await this. We'll say groups add to group async, and then when the table joins, just as like a confirmation, we could send back a message and say client dot clients dot caller dot send async, and we'd send back a command like we would call it like joined game or something like that, and then on the table when joined game is called, it would just like kind of echo a message like game successfully joined or something like that, just so we have some sanity that says okay, that actually did something. So now we've added a table to a group and we have an echo message going back. Let's go ahead and pull up our table. We'll move this over here. Our table doesn't have SignalR yet. We have something
file
here.
isn't saved. Did you save it?
I did not save yet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't know what the save all command is in Visual
There's
Studio
what?
Code, but
I've never even heard of that. I always save files individually. There's a save all command? What? Sorry, you're blowing my mind. Okay, continue on.
yeah. I think I rigged mine up to do this before. There's a user setting you can go into and like fiddle a hotkey and make it. Anytime you save, it saves everything. But let's see. We need to add SignalR to our table. we have SignalR on one of our other components.
So Shorty 456132, Control K plus S. Although you're not
Yeah.
on Mac, so I don't know what the alt.
I think what I did is I just mapped that to Control S. So I just saved. Rarely do I need to like independently save files.
That
Like I
is
just
really
wish they just save.
weird. Ed, that's really weird. It's like such a habit, like Command S, like every time I'm like, and so I've never had multiple files open that weren't saved. So it's so odd that you would go to a new file without saving.
Yeah. So our table doesn't have SignalR, so I'm just going to copy the SignalR setup here. So we're going to get a client, our navigation manager, async disposable, and then we'll copy this nice little bit so it can check if it's connected. So anytime on our hub connection, which we don't have a hub connection here, we need a hub connection. So when the hub connection becomes connected, it will let us know it's connected, and it'll light up anything in our UI that needs to be enabled or disabled. And then we need an onInitialize method. So we'll do onInitialize async. And then we need to create a connection with that hub. And then we need to give it the URL of the hub. So this one's not the chat hub. This is going to be the game hub. So we're going to connect with the game hub and then build that connection. And there we go. It finally compiled and picked it up. And then we need to register some events here. So we need to be able to call, if we go back to the game hub, when we join a game, we're going to send a message called join game, and we need to echo that back to the table, and the table needs to pick up that join game command and run it. So let's go back to our chat hub. So our chat hub has the building blocks for this type of behavior. And we want something like this. We'll go ahead and copy that out and paste it here. So we're going to say connect or hub connection on, and then on is going to take the command name, which is joined game, that matches up with our hub. Am I getting beat up in chat room?
No, someone might be more punny than you, though.
Oh.
Robert Table said back in the 1400s, sailors used flags and lanterns to coordinate raids. It was called SignalR.
That's a good one. My favorite one is where do pirates keep their pirated software?
Where?
On their R drive. Their R drive.
Oh, you've got competition, is all I'm saying.
R drive, right? So the original code said on the connection or on this command, it's going to do something, and it echoed the user's message before. This one, let's just go ahead and, first of all, this is a method signature. It's saying on, and it's expecting a method that takes two strings. We're gonna just be getting back, we're not getting back any strings. We're not getting any parameters with this. Let's see, is it not happy with that though? Maybe it's because I still have this bit here. And then I would need an empty method. There we go. So we're not getting any parameters back, so we don't need that part. And then we need to do something to let this know it's joined a game. is connected and is joined is two different things. Let's go ahead and set up another flag here. We'll say has joined game, and we'll default that to false. And when it does join the game, and this will probably be pretty instantaneous for us because we're local. We're testing this locally. We're not actually like going out to the internet and expecting it to do any work. This connection should come back very quickly. So if this method is called, then that method had to come from the hub. So we know that we've connected to the hub.